Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name is Bob Kramich, and I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Leverage Point. Leverage Point is a B2B SaaS software platform that effectively translates the features and benefits of your product and your service into dollarized value propositions. At Leverage Point, we have the privilege of working with and partnering with innovative organizations around the globe to help them operationalize customer value at the center of their commercial strategy. What is value selling? Before we jump into the panel discussion, I'd like to just level set on what value selling is. When we talk about value selling, we're talking about much more than just product features and benefits. It's about clearly identifying the benefits you deliver to your customers and quantifying them in terms of the business impact of revenue gains, cost savings, or risk reduction, and equipping your teams to have confident, value-focused conversations. Value selling is not just a nice to have, it's become a commercial imperative. Today, it accelerates sales cycles, drives higher close rates, supports margin integrity, and strengthens customer relationships. Using the Leverage Point platform, our customers, including those here today, experience win rates increases about 5 to 15%, 10 to 25% higher profitability, and deal sizes. And then finally, shorter sales cycles, sometimes 50 to 75%. Before we jump in, let's just take a quick example. Some key value selling metrics include the number of opportunities that you have in your pipeline, average deal size, win rate or conversion rate, and the length of the sales cycle. For example, let's assume Acme Corp has 25 salespeople, an average deal size of $350,000 and 6 closes per year per salesperson. This equates to a $52.5 million annual run rate. After applying a value selling methodology, it kicks off a sequence of events that increases the number of sales cycles. Let's say in this case, 2.5%, increases your average deal size by 5%, win rates by 1%, and reduces your sales cycle time by like 3.5%. You experience an increased sales velocity of 13%, thus significantly and measurably impacting your revenue performance. While the concept is rather straightforward, getting started and scaling effectively often requires a clear strategy, practical tools, and organizational alignment. Today's session is designed to give you exactly that, whether you're at the beginning of your value journey or looking to scale an established program. You'll hear real-world stories and practical insights from commercial leaders who have done the work and seen the results. Today, we're fortunate to be joined by 3 outstanding panelists and even better human beings, also Leverage Point customers. Ole Jakob Prebensen, Commercial Manager at Elkem ASA. Paulo D'Angeli, Head of Customer Experience and Customer Value Management at Borealis. And Rick Cantrell, VP of Strategy and Chief of Staff for Card Services at Fiserv. Welcome, gentlemen. Here's how we'll run today's session. I'll spend about 10 minutes with each panelist in a spotlight conversation to explore their journey, the lessons they've learned, and the practical advice for teams just getting started. Then we'll open it up for group discussion and live audience Q&A. So you can ask your own questions and engage our panel. Please remember to submit your questions via the chat feature on the GoToWebinar bar. To start, I'd like to welcome Ole Jakob Prebensen from Elkem ASA. After more than a decade as an officer in the Army and nearly 30 years in the oil and gas industry, Ole Jakob has built deep expertise in optimizing customer outcomes. In his current role as commercial manager at Elkem, he's been leading the charge on implementing and scaling customer value management, ensuring teams are trained and aligned globally. Welcome, Ole Jakob.
Well, thank you, Bob.
To start, I'd love to ask you, how have Elkem applied value selling approaches in new product launches over the last few years?
Well, that's a good question. This all started with a specialty product in one of the segments we had about 7 years ago. That's when I joined Elkem. So in the past, our portfolio of specialty products were competing more on a cost-based basis with the support of our services, which we find of great value to the customers. These services enable us to obtain what we call a premium price, even though I'm not too fond of that word. I'll get back to that later on. But at this time, they were less focused on maximizing the value delivered to individual customers, rather optimizing and reducing internal cost. So during the initial period of our new product, there were a lot of discount and push from customers, as any new product that we brought into the market has to prove that it's of value. Now, this specific product that we brought into the market was developed about 10 years ago, very little sales. We had some sessions and workshops about this, and we found numerous differentiating features and associated benefits. But quantifying the financial benefit to customers were not done at this stage. So we did. And even though our unit price was much higher, and still is, by the way, than alternative offering, we were able to push the narrative of the perceived value to the customers. So through data gathering among our customers and end users, international papers, we started to create value drivers for this differentiated product, eventually creating value propositions. And this kickstarted the value-based approach for more and more of our products in Elkem. Very quickly, what was the outcome of after all these years? Well, sales has gone up with 3,200% within 6 years when it comes to volume. So the basics is that once managers and sales reps are aligned with value-based pricing, you open up a new territory, even for existing contracts and products. And we have a very strong emphasis on services as well, where these are used in negotiations. So whenever the product itself doesn't have the differentiating features and benefits, we allow our services to play a major role in negotiations. So basically, that's it.
Interesting. What's your approach to training people on value selling? How do you maintain engagement with your sales and product teams on the topic?
Okay, so a year and a half ago, we started the value-based sales approach big time. Over the last year, more than approximately 250 people within our company has gone through 2 days of intensive training as a starter. And what we've done, despite what people might think of a course, we didn't have a test at the end. We didn't have a final test, but they were all charged with completing a value model of their own choice within 1 week after the completion of the course itself. Once that is done, the course has been completed and will be recorded in the HR files. So more specifically, the course was not completed until the value model was approved by me. The outcome of this is that we've had hundreds of qualified value models in our library right now, and we use these models to put into the leverage point system through one-on-one sessions with the originator of these models, making it more user-friendly and, of course, more customer-friendly, as this is very easy to display the benefit of our products through the leverage point system. And I also have to say, there's not only sales rep that's participating in these sessions. We've had personnel from supply chain, procurement, R&D, technical staff, the whole lot. They've joined in. And this is important, as they all need to understand the concept of value-based sales. The funny part of this is, of course, that our procurement department will now destroy any value prop that comes in there from their customers, because they think opposite of what the sales representative would do. Right now, I'm preparing an online training session for our participants, and this will be an ongoing session that will last for years to come. I can also say that the value props that we have must be uploaded into our ERP system each time a quote is submitted from our customers.
Yep. Interesting. It really is a cultural transformation in a sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It takes some time, I imagine, to get it to go. What role or function is responsible for driving value in the launch process at Elkem?
Well, besides my role as the head of training and implementation of value-based sales and negotiation skills in this company, all the business directors are included in the process. More specifically and more importantly, we have the support of upper management, which is absolutely key to get this going. We have used a consultant company to conduct extensive value-based negotiation skills training for all our sales representatives. And we have created, to some extent at least, specialists throughout the world community that we have, because we're located worldwide, in customer value management and value-based sales. Still, the main person driving this on a continuous basis is the head of sales in our company, and that's me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yep. So you kind of spoke about the steps you've taken to elevate value communication internally. What do you think energized people to get started? Like, were key success factors or any key wins critical to get people motivated?
Yeah, that's key. We saw from the initial sales of the product that I mentioned initially that kickstart sort of a wave within the company. So what we see is that if you have a success story to bring, and we put this on our intranet site, and so on, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this kickstart the process. And of course, CFO is pretty happy about what happened as well. So this is key.
Interesting. May I ask, what was your starting point with Leverage Point?
Well, I started with Leverage Point in 2012. At that time, I was global director of a business line and also in charge of implementation of new technology. So we started the value-based approach. We saw basically an increase of, 28% in new technology revenue within 3 years. And I recall the president of this company once asked me if it were worth spending the money on the licenses from Leverage Point. And I responded that at this time it was one additional sales of new technology will cover the cost of the licenses.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you, Ole Jakob. Just sit tight. We're going to come back to you in a bit. Next up is Paolo D'Angeli from Borealis. Paolo oversees commercial operations, including customer experience and value management, and brings over 15 years of experience in pricing and customer value. Paolo has driven transformational initiatives across commercial excellence and value creation, and even founded the European CVM think tank to advance best practices across industries. Welcome, Paolo.
Thank you, Bob.
It's a pleasure to have you here. Paolo, is there a right situation to get started with selling value, new products, existing products, new target customers? What are your thoughts there?
Well, that's an interesting question. I personally believe there is always a good situation to start value selling. Of course, I mean, you may argue that if you have a new product or you're approaching a new customer, it may be easier. But what I observe is that also with existing products and existing solutions, the benefit of applying properly value selling, value-based pricing, customer value management is huge. Think about if you are challenged on your current price levels, and instead of giving away discounts that sometimes maybe is not needed, if you keep your sales managers with argumentations to talk with the customers and explain that that price level is right? And so I wouldn't say that you need to wait for a particular situation to happen. I believe it's actually much easier than what we tend to think. There is only probably one prerequisite. It's obvious. You need to have a differential value proposition, right? You need to have something to say to your customers. You need to be able to quantify it. This is very important. You need to make sure that you are able to impact their profit equation, right? So if you are able to let them sell more volumes and or at higher prices, or reduce fixed or variable cost, then you have something to say. If you are not in that position, then you have a problem. And then you need to start working on value creation first. But if you have that, just start simply and simple models. Back to what Ole Jaakko was saying, by the way, great experience. Ole Jaakko and I are in touch and followed his journey. It's incredible what they did at Elkem. And so then it's a matter of change management, right? But just start.
Just start. That's great advice. Does your team talk about value with existing customers? And if so, in what situations?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we talk about value with our customers regularly. So we go from having, like, say, structure, formal meetings or workshops with customers when we talk about value and our value proposition, to normal conversations with them about, again, our value proposition and why our price levels are at certain level, right? And what I observe here, it's very, very important to take care of two things, I think, when it comes to value conversation and talking with customers. First of all, you don't want to have a conversation on value in a meeting where the topics on the agenda are 8, 9, or 10 other topics, and you want to have a conversation on value, right? You cannot, it's not recommendable, in my opinion, to talk with your customers about how they see the future of the industry, about that particular claim they raise on the product quality, and then at the end of the agenda talk about your value proposition. Ideally, we recommend to have a dedicated meeting to talk about value. That's very important. And then another important thing is to talk about your value proposition all throughout the year. Don't wait until contract season starts, but talk with your customers about your value proposition every time you can during the year. Create the right mindset, the right framework, and explain that, of course, you are more than the price tag, right?
100%. To me personally, sales is about helping people. And what better way to help people than to build trust, to candidly discuss how your product or your service impacts their situation and their needs. And it sounds like once you do that, that can continue not only from the beginning of a relationship, but throughout the customer.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Bob. If I may build on what you said, I've been doing this job, as you mentioned, for some years now. And in my career, I have never experienced a customer kicking me out of the door or the window because I wanted to talk about how much more money we can make together, or at least to sit and try to understand, if what I'm doing is of value for them, right? Of course, sometimes it's difficult. Let's not be naive, and let's be frank. Sometimes customers don't want to share too much, or they don't want to necessarily validate your hypothesis. But as you said, once you build trust and you talk about the current value proposition, but also opportunities to create joint value together, which is what we typically do, customers are typically happy to have these conversations. And we had in the past even vice presidents, directors from our customers joining these meetings, these workshops, because it's a topic of interest. It needs to be framed well. Of course, it needs to be well positioned. Again, it doesn't need to be one of 10 topics on the agenda. It needs to be specifically, prepared. But you're right. It's a matter of trust and making sure that they understand that there is a joint goal and a joint benefit from having these conversations on value, right?
100%. Can I ask, what was your starting point with Leverage Point?
Oh man, I mean, if I'm not wrong, we started using Leverage Point back in 2018. So it's been some time. And we started with a pilot in one of our business units where the colleagues were a little bit more advanced than the rest. We started piloting 3 customers, and we built a simple value model, and we start visiting these customers. And it went well because of the things that I just said, right? Customers were happy to have a conversation on our value proposition. We came with relatively simple models, easy to understand, and we were able to quantify, of course, the additional differential value proposition. We had a conversation on the hypothesis, and it's actually very, very important, by the way, doing this, because it's the best sign of interest in your customer's business. When you try to understand if what you are doing is of value for them, you need to understand their business. You need to put yourself in their shoes. And customers, again, typically appreciate this. So the first pilots went pretty well. And within a year, we expanded to all the business units we have. And we went across regions. And since then, it's been a very nice journey. We grew further and further. Now we have more than 20 CVM champions in the organization, representing marketing, sales, and technical support. And but we have colleagues from also supply chain, as Jacob also mentioned before in his company, from different departments who are interested in this. Because as I typically say, like, a value proposition is what you are, right? If you are not able, again, to prove to your customers that you are better than your next best alternative in something, and you are not able to impact their profits, then you have a problem. If you are able to do that, then you definitely need to communicate this, right? So it's what you are. So we attracted in the years everyone from different angles of the company. You know?
Interesting. Thank you, Paolo. What were your key learnings from the early pilots?
Well, one thing that I mentioned is that we started with the simple value models, right? And paradoxically, after working well at the beginning, we had a moment where we started saying, okay, this is working. Let's try to show customers that we really know their business. And we had some experience where we created very complicated value models, where basically we had lots of formulas, lots of ifs here and there. And we soon realized that customers were not able to follow. And also sometimes our colleagues were not able to explain this. So this was a mistake we made at the beginning. So once again, let me stress this. You don't need to have a perfect value model to go out and start doing value selling. You need something simple that everybody understands. Your hypotheses are by definition good. They need to be good enough to initiate a conversation with your customers. They don't need to be perfect, because most times it's much better to have a realistic range, a realistic assumption to be validated with your customers than spending lots of time in having the perfect number, and it takes months maybe to get to, and then you never start, right? So much better to have realistic hypotheses, simple value models, engage your customer as soon as you can, try to have a conversation with the customers, try to have your hypothesis validated, and once you have a final number, even a range agreed between the parties, that's it. Then you build from there, right?
Interesting. I've been made aware that some people are getting kicked off the webinar. If you do get kicked off and you can't come back in, we are recording this session. We will share it with everyone who has registered, just so you know that. When we think of value selling, at Leverage Point, a lot of a competition that we face is with spreadsheets. And we believe wholeheartedly that it's about having both a qualitative and a quantitative discussion, being able to share more than just numbers and capture information in a very continuously improving closed loop fashion. When it comes to the content that's used in your value proposition presentations, who's responsible for maintaining that content? Borealis.
Yeah, I mean, now it's with marketing, because we have been investing, as I said, we've been on this journey for some years now, and we have now reached a level of maturity. We believe that is good enough to make sure that the marketing function, the marketing department owns the value propositions. I act as a coach often to my colleagues. But also, as I mentioned, the CVM champions, or the customer value management champions, play a role here, and not only they are ambassadors of the right mindset and the right way of doing things, but they are also managing this value proposition, make sure they are up to date, And another interesting thing that we recently introduced was the link between customer value management and customer experience. So we really want to learn from our customers. We ask our customers twice a year what they think about us. We really read the comments. We really try to understand where we are doing what we're doing well and where we can improve. And we connect this to our value propositions. We keep on challenging our value propositions to make sure they are up to date, because as you know, value propositions are dynamic, right? They always need to be fine-tuned. And in this sense, marketing with the support of sales and technical support mainly are in charge for this. Right? And then, of course, we also quantify intangible elements of value in our value propositions. And therefore, when it comes to the value of supply chain, the value of reliability, and customer service, of course, we involve other colleagues that are responsible for contributing.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Paolo. We're going to come back to you as well, so sit tight if you don't mind. Sure. You know, between the two of you, could you talk about how do you scale value selling across regions or product lines? You know, for instance, was it the ease of content replication, or global team enablement, or measurable results? What helped you really scale the practice?
Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. All right. So first of all, I'd like to say this, that the focus has been over the last year and a half or 2 years, actually. We're much more focusing on cost and profit increase for the customers, what we can obtain for them instead of our own cost savings through CapEx, OpEx, whatever it might be. We have each product line director is continuously monitoring the scale up of this. We have specialists around the world. And what we do is that when we have a general value model, as we call it, when it's made, it's easy for each sales representative to pinpoint customer pain points. If once they've found them, then it can go in, find the appropriate value model, then extract the value drivers from these models that will prepare and then prepare a unique value proposition for each specific customer. So the copy-paste effect is obvious for us. Once we've created a model, it's much easier for the sales guys or anyone, even our handling guys in Rotterdam, see this as an opportunity to let the customer know that there's benefits of using us. And for some product line, they have what we call standardized products. Basically, they're competing on price all the time. In those cases, we are using what we call, well, what Paolo mentioned, the intangibles, or the services, you might call them. It could be delivering time and so on. But these guys were under an impression that they only sold commodities. I hate the word commodities, by the way, but since we have sales, there must be a reason why customers are buying from us. And we've found the reason why. And those are the intangibles that we use in addition to the product itself, where even if the product itself doesn't have any differentiation. So basically, that's how we scale up. And when everyone is on board with this attitude and the language that we introduce, the vocabulary that's been introduced, it's much easier for everyone to understand the concept of what we're doing. I have to also to say, even in the R&D process has been changed, where we focuses on potential value creation in the beginning. So we would never start a project unless we can see the outcome for customers at the end.
Interesting. Yeah. So this gets to even before the sales process. It's helping you decide what products to bring to market and how to bring them to market.
Yeah, exactly. If you develop a product and no one wants to buy it, then you spend a lot of money on wasting a lot of money. So we're doing value props or value modeling in the beginning of each R&D process. And that's included in the ERP system, where everything that goes into our ERP system has to include customer pain points, differentiating features, benefits, and so on, in order for everyone to see and bring to the table and assist our colleagues in the sales process itself.
Interesting. Thank you, Ole Jakob.
Yep.
Would you like to add to that, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a mix between pull and push, and meaning that the beginning, maybe you see more push. For example, something that we did was we embedded customer value management in our key commercial processes. Think about launch, and innovation. So if you are a marketing manager, you want to launch a new product, you have a committee of senior leaders who are reviewing your value proposition, and also you need to bring a model built with a leverage point that explains why a certain price, right? So that's maybe a little bit of a push because we ask everyone to use this methodology, and then it's also a lot of pull. Of course, the more you mature in the journey, because then you start seeing more and more results, right? And here we had, for example, our head of finance validating the results of the first pilots first, and then as we continue growing and growing impact, this, of course, as you can imagine, started creating some positive effect, right? And now I see that is almost entirely coming from the field. Meaning now there is a customer who's challenging us that we are more expensive than competitors and our product is the same. Good. They come to me, they come to the champions, and they say, what can we do? Right? Instead of asking for a discount. Of course, not everyone, not everywhere. I mean, I would be, again, naive to think, but there are more and more cases when this happens. And I developed a simple methodology. Within 6 weeks, we are now able to move from nothing to something solid to present to customers. So of course, if you have already something, it's less. And we work kind of in a task force mode, half an hour per week. We assign each other homework during the week, so we are very efficient. Every week we share where we are, and maximum 6 weeks, we have a differential value proposition to present to customers, because the culture is now there, of course, right? Yeah.
Wonderful.
May I add, Bob, just a small comment here. I think the crucial part of what we do is not to look at the unit of which a product is sold, is to look at the end result from the customer perspective. So the customer unit of measure, which is called, is if you are selling a product, let's say cement or whatever it is, to build a bridge or blow out the tunnel, whatever it is, or making a building. The key here is to look at the overall, how would the customer look at the total price of this operation? What's the total cost of building a bridge? And by doing that, we can go in and fine tune the pricing that we got on our product based on the savings this operator will have for building that bridge. So it's not a unit per pound or per metric ton, whatever it is, it's the total savings for the customer. That is key to value-based sales in my mind.
Interesting. Great feedback. Hey, Rick, were you able to make it back in, or are you still kicked out?
No, Rick, but just to kind of, and the technical issues, apologies to everyone again for this. The recording seems to be going very well for Bob, Jacob, and Paolo, and I think we'll do a follow-up recording with Rick and splice it together in post. So I would say let's just finish out between the three of you.
You bet. Okay, so hey guys, one question I have is, what was holding you back from value selling before leverage point? In other words, how did leverage point help you?
Maybe I can start with this, or Jacob, if you don't mind. I mean, to be fair, we always had in the company some sort of experience when it comes to value-based pricing and value selling from different projects as well in the past. But before leverage point, we were using Excel. And one of the main benefits that I see in using leverage point is that it is online. And for a global company like us, having the possibility to work on the same model across continents without sending emails with attached files is of huge value. It saves time back to the 6 weeks. That helps, right? That was probably, in my opinion, at the beginning at least, the biggest benefit we saw. And then, of course, needless to mention, the way the look and feel, the way it looks like, above all when it comes to value communication and using live PowerPoint presentation. That's how we position them, right, to customers, is very impressive. And this really helps because you can really do things very quickly without creating your PowerPoint presentation, no macros, and so it's really working well.
Okay, interesting, great. Jakob?
I've been working with new technology for almost 13 years, and I recall, if I go back a few years back, then a lot of the focus of any sales guy is to bring in a technical guy to any sales meeting. I'm just going to be straightforward with this. What happens is that you get into a technical discussion with the team sitting opposite of you. And when you do that, you're not focusing on the customer itself. So I don't say that you shouldn't bring in a technician to a sales meeting, but limit the time spent on technical issues like features. What we're trying to do in any sales operation is to understand the pain point of the customer, how we can save money. So Leverage Point that I started to use, 13 years ago, has been a great tool for us in both the companies that I work for, in a way where it's very easy for us to show to the customer the tremendous cost saving that's involved in once we've found the value drivers needed. And I need to say that it's a surprise to a lot of the salespeople that within our company that once we do this value modeling, they're surprised about the cost savings involved for our customers. So it's a great tool for us to use, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, terrific. Let me ask you both, how do you measure the impact of your value selling program today? Paulo, would you start?
Sure. I mean, for new products, we typically start asking my colleagues in marketing before running the exercise, the value quantification exercise, what is your target price, right? And sometimes it's based on cost, sometimes it's based on competition, and sometimes it's also based on a rough estimate of the additional value. And then we run the exercise, and then we compare, right? And what I learned over the years is that there is always a positive impact in running this exercise, because if by chance the projected target price based on the calculation with the Leverage Point is exactly the same price, it's confirming the first gut feelings, but it's giving a solid list of sales argumentation, right, to why a certain price. If it's lower, that's also very good, because then you must ask yourself, right, if you follow your recommendation, your colleague in marketing, and we put a target price which is higher than what we are able to justify, then we have a problem, right? Because then we have a target price which is higher than what it should be, or at least what we are able to justify. If it's higher, needless to say, then is a not miss opportunities to have a higher target price and release price because of value quantification and the argumentations that you created with this exercise. With existing business instead, I typically run a peer comparison analysis. So I know which customers I'm visiting, right? And I compare those customers with their peers. So customers that are in the same region, that are buying in the same period, the same product. And then at the end of a year, for example, at the end of a period, I check and see what difference in terms of volume evolution or price development I can measure, and I can see. And even here, if you think about it, it's pretty intuitive, because if you go, again, back to what I was saying at the beginning, if you go visiting a customer, you talk about their problems, your solutions, you have a conversation on value, a real conversation on value, right? Not a promotional call. And you have alignment with the customers, and they understand why you are better there is no reason why you should see a deterioration in your business, right? The worst case, you keep things as they are, right? And that's what we have almost constantly witnessed.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Paulo. I think one last question that I have, and then Aaron, I'm not sure if anyone was able to submit questions through the chat feature because of the technical problems that we've had. But when working with our customers, you bring on new salespeople, and sometimes you're working with existing salespeople, and they may, how do you coach? They may forget things, but how do you coach individual reps and reinforce, post the initial training? How do you reinforce the process, or do you? Either one of you guys jump in.
So from my side, yeah, sure. By the way, I concur with everything Paulo said on the previous questions. That's fine, including the increase in gross margin. Anyway, it's a matter of connecting, and this is quite time consuming, I have to say. You need to connect with the right guys all the time and have one-on-one meetings or with the team. And the minute you stop talking about value creation, there's a chance that they might go back to the old cost plus, because that's so much easier to do, but it's way less fun. So the once they get the hang of value-based pricing and creating these value models, it's a no-brainer. They never stop. And we see this throughout the areas where we operate, that this is making a great impact on our overall gross margin, which is great. So one-on-one training, one-on-one sessions, never stop, and believe in what we're doing. That's key to success.
I believe in that wholeheartedly. Paulo, would you like to add anything to that?
Fully agree. It's a matter of creating this interest that then grows over time, as Jakub was saying, right? And eventually, if you think about it's helping them reaching their business goals as well, right? Because if they need to sell less volumes to reach the same margin goals by not only increasing prices, but also, again, let me stress this, also protecting price levels, right? As I typically say, an avoided discount is like a price increase, right? So it's also why you should use customer value management. And this is also typical argumentation, right? Sales may come and say, I cannot increase my prices, but you need to use customer value management and the leverage point also to defend and protect your current price levels, right? And by the way, also let me say something to typically here in the pricing network and pricing community. I've been part for many years now. It's typically a kind of a competition between pricing practitioners and sales organizations. What I can tell you is that in my career, almost, if not all the success stories I can tell were possible because of the strict collaboration with Salesforce and the sales organization. So it's always, in my opinion, important to work together with sales, marketing, other colleagues, but pricing practitioners need to work closely with sales, not compete with them. And if they are more than pricing practitioners, even better, right? Because you can build good teams and good success stories together. You need to understand what's in for them and spend time with sales, visiting customers, and visiting also, of course, going out with them and try to understand what their problems are and the customers' problems are. Otherwise, you'll be perceived as somebody sitting in their office and trying to push tools and processes, right? So this is also part of the success story.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much. I think that'll do it for my questions today. Aaron, was anyone able to submit questions? Should we take a couple if we can?
There were a few questions. There were a few questions that came in, but actually, as I was listening to what you guys were just saying, I think you've done a great job of covering them already. There's one question that I'd love to ask to kind of wrap up with, if you don't mind, Bob, which is what's next for your value selling program? Where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth or improvement over the next couple of years?
You want me to start, Paulo?
Sure.
Sure. All right. So it's a tricky one, but where I would love to see that we're going is to be outcome based, where we not only present the value to the customers, but we get into the mindset and actually integrate with the customers in a way where we collect the outcome of what we're doing and then bring that back to us and can leverage on and so on.
Great point.
I like that. I like that, and it's a good one. Indeed, I fully agree. Maybe another challenge, maybe simpler for us, would be to keep on doing things like we did so far, as you mentioned, Ole Jakob, before. Value selling, as much as customer value management, is also a matter of repetition at a certain point of the journey. So we don't need to take for granted that everyone in the organization is in love with this methodology, is fully able to implement it properly, and that all our customers are there yet, right? Because again, it's a matter of also the relationship with customers, right? It's not only us, but it's also coming from customers. So it's, in my opinion, it's repeating, making sure that things are properly implemented, and whenever this is not the case, reinforce and show again. Every year we measure additional money we were able to capture. Back to what you said, Ole Jakob, most importantly, how much more money we think we are creating for customers, because that's eventually what is motivating us.
Well, thank you guys so incredibly much for your great feedback and your candid feedback on these questions. You guys are true pros. I want to leave everyone with this, that personally for me, I feel like I finally found my home for sales after 30 years in sales when I joined this company, because value selling is about helping people. And what better way to help people than discuss openly how you really think your product or service can help them from a business perspective, and also help them personally. Because let's face it, it's a personal initiative when you go to work every day and you're trying to help out your team. It affects you personally. So with that, if anyone has any questions, if you're watching this webinar on a recording, please email me. You can see my email on the screen. And once again, I want to thank Ole Jakob and Paulo and Rick Cantrell, especially. I know I feel terrible about the technical problems, but such is life. Life goes on. But thank you, gentlemen, very much. Okay.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.